But yeah, afterwards I was just kind of like, hey, my stuff's already here. I got to be back here tomorrow. I noticed there's this room with a day bed that turns into a regular bed that no one's sleeping in. Like, can I just crash here? And they were like, sure, for a night. And then I was like, okay, for a night.
Yeah. So you had a free room at Tails this year.
Yeah.
You're the fucking best. I love you. I fucking love you. That's the best. I'm so happy to hear that. I think it really fills me with glee.
Oh, thank you.
Let's go. We ready?
All right. Yep.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that sound. It's gonna get you some in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Sother Teague.
I'm Greg Benson, and Sother, we both survived another Tales of the Cocktail. It has not gotten us yet. We made it.
18 for me. My Tales of the Cocktail visits are old enough to be an adult.
Congratulations.
What number?
Not old enough to drink yet, but old enough to be an adult.
A couple more years, yeah. What about you? How many times have you been?
Oh God, I think this is 7 for me. Yeah. But this is the first time that I wound up just kind of like crashing at a place that I wasn't officially staying. I just kind of attached myself barnacle like to the bottom of the ship that was the House of Procera and just kind of hung out with. And honestly, that just shout out to them. The house was great. Those folks are great. And the brand is great. It's African gin made from the Proceras juniperus. I think I'm doing that right. Sure. But it's a different type of juniper plant. We're used to it being kind of a short little scrubby bush. This is like a 70, 80 foot tall tree. So wildly different flavor profiles, but really, really interesting stuff there. And I'm not just saying that because I crashed on a daybed on Monday night and then just never left. I legitimately do enjoy it.
I'm filled with glee that you just found a place to I don't know, squat. You were a squatter for Tales.
I was. I was like one of those cats that just follows you home and is like, okay, I live here now. This is my home, and everyone else has to deal with it, you know.
Yeah. What did you get into that you enjoyed, and what do you regret?
Oh man, well, Tales is always the way I always describe it to people. I was actually on the plane down there next to someone. It was her first Tales of the Cocktail, and she was like, "What should I expect?" And I was like, the best way I can sum up this festival is that every time I'm there, in the back of my mind, there's always this little voice that's just kind of looking out at what's happening and the chaos and the madness and just like how much time and effort and money has to go into like throwing these insane parties. There's always a part of my brain that's like, why is no one stopping this? Like it always feels... Yeah. Tales feels like at some point some authority figure should come in and be like, all right, everyone, fun's fun, but that's enough. Everyone has to go home. And yet it never happens. But I went to some of the big parties. I stayed away from a lot of the big parties. I kind of would like pop my head and then go to a few smaller ones like William Grant and Sons. Loved it. Had a great time at their party. But afterwards I was going to meet a friend at Chart Room. Ran into him as he was leaving Chart Room and he's like, come with me. We're going on a quest. And I was like, okay. He goes to Crystal Burgers and orders 50 hamburgers and then is just like passing them out Santa Claus style back at Chart Room. Yeah, exactly. It was great. It was a good time. So shout out to Colin Baugh, aka Burger Santa, for making that happen.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, I'm also
sorry I missed it. You know, I generally spend most of my time at the Chart Room when I'm down.
I know. I was a bit surprised that you weren't there. Katie and Arlene from the Mermaid were there, so I got to see them, which is great. But I was a bit surprised that you. Well, hey, there might be free burgers in for you next time if you come and visit.
Anything can happen at the Chart Room.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I made it to N7, which is always a great meal, great time, great staff that works there. Shout out to them for being very gracious when we kind of looked around and were like, oh shit, everyone else is gone. We should probably leave too. Yeah, I don't know. We were talking about things we didn't get to before the show. And you said that maybe there was something you didn't get to do. What was your Tales like?
My Tales was this year a pretty good balance of busy to not busy. I got to see a lot of people. We did some celebrated the life of Chris Patino with a second line. And for those unfamiliar with what a second line is, it's you know what it is. You just don't know what it's called, but it's the jazz band that plays in the streets and you dance behind them. And then we celebrate the life of someone who's passed. Our dear friend Chris Patino passed away some months ago, but he lived in New Orleans for a long time. So we took this opportunity to have a big second line for him. And then some regrets. I didn't get to go to Holy Diver, which has fast become one of my favorite new bars down there, Nick Jarrett's place. And I didn't get to venture all the way over to Saturn Bar, which is a longtime locals bar that I always visit when I'm there as well. So a couple of spots I didn't get to go to. I didn't go to the large parties this year either, stuck to the smaller events so I could be a little bit more intimate and chat with people. Hung out with our guests today and had some classic cocktails in the places of their origin in New Orleans, which was quite a fun time. So I had a great tales.
Yeah, it felt busier than usual. It felt like there was a lot of people in places that I like usually see that I felt like I was kind of having to like squeeze in at the last minute, you know?
Yeah, I went to several seminars and they were all 100% full.
Yeah.
So
which is good. I mean,
it's
good. It's good that the festival is alive and kicking. But for me, the one thing that I always try and do when I'm there is I'm not a superstitious or spiritual person, but I do have a favorite saint. Sother, are you familiar with the cult of Saint Expedite?
Expedite? No.
Okay.
I've been an expediter, but I didn't know that I could maybe get sainted for that.
Well, you can't because Saint Expedite is already taken. It was how it started is there was a package with a previously unknown saint sent to the convent of Saint Ursuline in New Orleans, and all it said on the box was Expedite. And the nuns didn't know what to do with it, so they just kind of put it in a hallway. And because this convent was also a school, a lot of the students would start leaving offerings of like candy and stuff to it when they were about to take a test. And so it has become the patron. I'm not sure officially what Expedite is the patron saint of, but if you ever need something fast, and I mean fast, leave Expedite an offering. He loves candy. He loves booze, which is why I have a little card of him in my kitchen, and he'll make it happen. And every year I try and get a to-go Sazerac from Bar Tonique and leave it at the Ursuline Convent as an offering. But unfortunately, I didn't get to it this year. So
no.
I know. So apologies. I know. Apologies to Saint Expedite, and hopefully I'll make up for it with an offering at some point later on this year.
Well, at least you're repentant about it already. So
exactly. I know. At least, you know what? And I think I like to think that he knows that I was doing a lot of talking and working and boozing, and he's like, you know what? He's like, I see all of the hedonistic work you were up to, and I know you were busy. So speaking of hedonistic work,
exactly what I was going to
say. Joining us in the studio today, we have, I guess it's fair to say that he's the brains behind Vinepair, which is a excellent online journalism source for all things drinks and culture. It is Tim McKirdy. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Tim, good to have you.
Thank you very much for having me. But I should say that there are far larger and greater brains than mine in this.
I was actually going to pull Greg down off of that one too. You're not necessarily the brains, maybe the engine, right? You're the thing that makes it all fall into place and move forward.
Well, the thing is, I didn't know what your official title was, so I had to kind of improvise.
You improvise, but no, I want to say, co-founders Josh Malin and Adam Teeter, they started Vinepair 10 years ago. I think they've built an incredible organization.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then editor-in-chief Joanna Sciarrino has been running this good ship for a good few years now and is just a wonderful colleague and the best boss I've ever had.
Yeah, love that. I mean, listen, we don't all get to say that about our bosses, unless we're our own boss, and then we definitely don't get to say it.
Yep.
But
fuck that guy.
Stoked to have you on. And, just for our listener, obviously they're probably familiar with Vinepair, but, I think they'd be even just as familiar with the Vinepair Instagram, which you do the man on the street interviews that have become wildly popular, plus your podcast. And that's kind of the main reason I think we're having you on today. You have a podcast that I've been a guest on a few times called Cocktail College on Vinepair. And currently you're in the midst of a 3-part series specifically about Mezcal. But I want to talk about the show in general and your life in general, your career in general. So I don't know, give us a little bit about Tim to kick off the show and let our listener know who you are.
So much like yourself, Sother, started out in the culinary field. I trained as a chef. I went to culinary college in the UK. We do things a little bit different over there, or at least we did. We had this really fun program where you would do 1 week at college and 3 weeks in the restaurant, and that meant you get paid from like starting and straight out of high school if you want to.
Cool.
So I did that for some years. I was a chef in London and then moved out to Argentina. I was a chef there for a year. and then started getting into wine and taking drinks a little bit more seriously. And I said, well, if I'm not going to be working as a chef, I don't really want to work in restaurants anymore. So what else can I do? Writing seems like a lucrative gig, and it turns out that wasn't true.
They always say that's where the money is.
Yeah.
The young and deluded Tim.
Yeah. And then, so I've been at Vinepair for 7 years now, and it's been truly a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, and you've been there in your role as editor for most of that time, right? And like, talk to us about just even how that works, because I didn't have a real understanding until you and I became friends about how even that kind of stuff works. I just thought there were a staff of writers and they would turn in their work and it would get posted and moving forward. But you sort of are kind of like the conductor or band leader, right?
Yeah, so I will work with a lot of freelancers, including Greg, so writers who hired guns, but very good hired guns.
Thanks.
who might write for numerous different publications or newspapers as well. And so we will have relationship with freelance writers who might send me pitches, or I might have an idea and say, hey, I think this is a good one for Greg to tackle, or someone else. Aaron Goldfarb, I know a friend of the show and a good friend of ours. And so we will talk through ideas, then we'll get it on the calendar. The writer will file it, I'll edit it. But yeah, that's a part of it. We also have staff writers here as well.
Yeah.
But I would say that, like, it's funny that editor would be the name of the role, because editing articles is a very small part of what you would do, right? It's like planning out the calendar, coming up with ideas, going back and forward and things, and then doing some other fun editorial programming, right? Like, so you mentioned Cocktail College. That's a podcast that I host, and that's been going for a couple of years now. We're just about to hit 200 episodes, actually, which is fun.
Nice.
Milestone. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. And otherwise, I know Greg is a familiar fixture and face at. We host a monthly party here at the Vinepair office called After Hours. It's kind of trade only, and it's our way to sort of give back to the community, because, you know, any of the articles we do about spirits and cocktails or podcasts that I record rely on the time and expertise of bartenders. So we like to try and give back by hosting a fun party. So if anyone is in the trade and is not familiar with that, they can reach out to myself. I know we might share Instagrams or whatever in the description here. So yeah, people can reach out, and we will like to put you on the list. And we say, you come to one, you're invited to all. Yeah,
and they're incredibly fun. I've hosted two of them.
You've hosted? I forgot. Yeah. Sorry, jeez.
Yeah, I've been to many. Remember we did Sue's, which was tons of fun, like some bitter cocktails, and also highlighting Sue's in a way that's not necessarily so common to its perception. And then we did the swamp water. Yeah, chartreuse. That was when I'd just gotten back from visiting the monks and wanted to show off the fact that there is no true chartreuse shortage. It's all in our heads. It's a bank run. Stop hoarding. There won't be a shortage if you stop hoarding. Those of you who are hoarding, please stop it, because those of us who don't have it are upset that we can't have it because you're hoarding. And it just makes it's a snake that eats itself. Anyway, we did swamp waters, which were just, ounce upon ounce upon ounce. We went through so many bottles of chartreuse that night.
It was a fun one. So yeah, like I said, editing articles, it's a small part of it, but that really is the beating heart of Vinepair, though, is our the publication vinepair.com. We continue. I think one of the things that I'm most proud about working for Vinepair and the work that we do is the fact that we continue to commission and publish, whether it's one of our writers in-house or commission freelancers, like feature articles, reported pieces. We do all the other stuff as well. We do it really well, buying guides or, cocktail recipes or, historical nuggets, things you didn't know about brands. But once or 5 times a week, if you go on the site, the first article you'll see on there, that is going to be a reported piece of journalism. And I think, we have a goal. Apart. Yeah. And it's less and less common these days for myriad reasons.
Yeah, I don't want to dump by any means on any of the other online magazines, but they generally are listicles. They generally are recipe resources, whereas there's a lot more journalism, I think, on Vinepair, and I think that's it's a great resource for me to have, because I'm in it for the information, not just the end result.
Totally.
Well, the information and the good writing too. I mean, especially that Greg Benson guy that's on there. But I mean, I was gonna say,
I
Tim,
assumed
like
you'd have a pseudonym like you have when you do the priest thing.
just it's Grog Benson. That's when I'm the priest thing, I'm Father Daddy. But
Yeah.
but I wanted to say, Tim, like one thing I really appreciate about working with you all is that, especially you as an editor, is that I've worked with some editors where it gets kind of annoying, where you can tell that like they're just not that good of a writer, and they like keep wanting you to make changes where you're just like, pretty sure it was better the way I did it, to be honest with you. And I really enjoy the collaborative process, whether it's you or any of the other editors at Vinepair, that tells me that there's a real commitment to storytelling there, and not just, as we were saying, like listicles, recipes, like, top 10 spritzes of the summer, that sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I try to stay very cautious of, is cognizant of even, but having been a writer before and then moving on to the editorial, the editor side of things, you want to make sure. I think the priority for me, I have two priorities, right? Like, is this a fit for Vinepair? Is this something that's suitable for Vinepair? But also at the same time, am I maintaining the writer's voice?
Love it. I was hoping you were going to say the word voice.
Yes, because otherwise you don't need bylines, right? It could just be written by anyone if all of the articles read the same. Now, of course, I think I would be the first to put my hand up and say, like, as a writer, sometimes we can have too much voice, and it maybe is the role of an editor to find the nice middle ground there, where it's, it's a Vinepair piece, it's a Greg Benson piece, and it's nicely in the middle there.
Yeah, but I do love that you are appreciative of that, because I don't think that that's as common as it maybe used to be. And yeah, I definitely can tell when I'm reading an article by BTP or by, Dave Wondrich or by Kara Newman, like, I hear their voice in the work because I've read enough of their works to understand the way that they sound, colloquialisms or just manners of speech. And I'm really glad that you're out there trying to preserve that,
Totally, yeah. And I think as a writer, it's a thing that takes a long time to develop as well, right? Like
100%.
Yeah. So you want to preserve that.
Yeah. Well, and you all at the end of last year took a chance on a piece that I've been pitching for literally 10 years about this insane brewery in my hometown of Washington, D.C. that has gone through 4 different deaths and rebirths so far, and never had it didn't get a lot of love from everywhere else that I'd sent it, but it was a really great process to work with all of you to make that happen.
Always happy when that is the case, or when someone's like, hey, I've been pitching this around for years. Or when someone's like, I've always wanted to write this piece, and you have that opportunity and you're like, yeah, this is a good idea. Let's do it. Like that's a real highlight of the job.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I had always wanted to write that, and then I got to, and it was wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about your writing, specifically this Mezcal series that we're.
Well, I want to jump in real quickly. I would say, like, I just wanted to say, like, yeah, your writing has a voice too, Tim, and so do you, both on the paper and in audio and video. Talk to us a little bit before we jump to the Mezcal thing, which I think we want to talk about a lot. But talk to us a little bit about how it's your voice that is Cocktail College, and it is your voice that is sort of the man on the street situation that you're doing on Instagram, and where these two ideas sort of came from and how they came to be what they are, because they're both wildly popular.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. So Cocktail College started during the pandemic. I was still a staff writer, and I was interviewing bar operators all the time. We tried to stay on top of what's happening in the industry, how can we help out, or what are some of the challenges of the pandemic, right? And time again, I would hear from bar operators that, yes, there was a staffing issue, right? A lot of people had left the industry, but the thing that was harder is, like, when you got staff, they had no training, they had no experience. And obviously I would always say, go on vinepair.com, read our articles. We have a ton of literature on all this stuff. But we actually used to have this column that was about, like, mastering cocktails. And I started thinking about that, like, could that be a podcast? Because podcasting is my favorite medium to start. I've been listening to podcasts for 20 years now. And I thought, looking at my experience as a chef too, I knew that, like, you look at a recipe, and a recipe is that classic, just the tip of the iceberg, right? It's, one white onion. Well, how big is the onion? Saute for 5 minutes. Well, how big is my pan? How much oil have I used? How thick is the base of the pan? Like all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like the recipe, you can look at a recipe for a cocktail online and it's really not going to tell you that much. So what if we got people who are renowned for specific drinks or renowned names in the industry? What if we got them on the show and said, every episode is a deep dive on one cocktail with one bartender, and we're going beyond the recipe, and we're going to look at things like techniques, and we're going to look at ingredients and stuff like that. And the final part of it too was like, I don't know whether either of you like read it or are active or sort of snooping around in the bartenders subreddit, but it's somewhere I like to go, right? And something that reminded me a lot of being a chef was like you would see people in these small markets in places I'd never heard of in, like faraway states who were posting photos of like, hey, I just rejigged my setup for tonight and I think this is going to be awesome. And it's like, it's going to make my drinks faster. Yeah. And I used to do that as a chef. And so it made me feel, harken back to that. But I thought, well, if you work in one of these markets and you're passionate about bartending, you're not going to be able to work for a Sother Teague because Sother Teague is, here in New York City, or you might not be able to work for an Eric Alperin who's out in Los Angeles or whatever. So what if we share their knowledge with you via a podcast? So that is the genesis of Cocktail College.
And I love it. And it resonates. I listen to almost every episode and I hear, I try and listen to them as quick as I can because I want to understand what the noise is that I hear afterwards, right? I see a lot of posts on social media about like what people have listened to, what they've learned from it, like little nuggets they may have gleaned from it. And I think that's the sort of joy and pleasure of listening to the show. Because you're right, I listen to the show about whatever cocktail you're talking about, and I'm like, I know that cocktail. And then I listen to the show and I think, wow, I didn't really know that cocktail, right? And I think that's the thing; it's really kind of eye opening in that regard. So anyone can, take something away. And I think that's the real gift of it.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the Instagram series. That one was a very simple idea based upon the idea, like people love to know where do chefs go to eat.
Yeah.
And they always think they know these insidery restaurants that no one's talking about or no one's telling them, or that they have insider knowledge. And the same is true for where do bartenders drink, right? Or what do winemakers drink themselves as well? So us being in the alcohol business here, or an alcohol-focused publication, I was like, well, let's do a series about where bartenders like to drink. And
but I think importantly, you changed the format a little by not just saying where do you like to drink, but saying specific drinks. What's the best martini? Where do you like to go dancing? What's the best place to go late night? Or all the different questions you ask, which are great. Because I've noticed, and there's other creators out there who do say, what's the place you want to go for a drink? And it devolves nearly immediately, not in a bad way, but it devolves nearly immediately into dive bars.
Yeah.
You ask a cocktail bartender where he likes to drink, he might point you to another cocktail bar. You ask that second cocktail bartender where he likes to drink, he's going to point you to a dive bar, and every dive bar bartender is going to point you to another dive bar. Yeah, it doesn't go the other way.
Yeah,
once the first one that says dive bar, you're in dive bars from now on.
One of the funniest things about the series, or like one of the best stories from, or things that I've enjoyed the most about like Vinepair starting to do that Instagram series is. When we conceived the idea, we said like, look, it's social media, right? So it has to be fast.
Yeah.
And
the cutaways are brilliant.
Right, exactly.
And I know that's not you. That's somebody editing.
Oh no, we have a fantastic video editor here on staff who does that. Annie, big shout out to her. She's very talented. And
she's great.
So I was like, most videos start with, hey, I'm Tim McKirdy. I'm here with Sother Teague, and we're at this bar. And I'm like, no, you've already lost me as an Instagram viewer.
Yeah.
So let's put the intro at the end.
At the end.
And I was like, I wonder whether bartenders will go for this because what's in it for them, right? Like, so it was hard. We didn't know how much bartenders would want to be involved, and luckily they have, and they've been gracious with their time. But so I heard a story. I'm not going to name a bar, but I heard a story of, I was at a bar where we'd featured. speaking with the person who had done, the interview, and they said, "Oh, we get a couple of times a night, or quite a few times a week, someone will come in and say, 'Oh, hey, I saw you on that series, and I'm coming in here to drink.'" And I'm like, "That's great," because they just spent the whole interview recommending other places that are not their bars. And then this person turned around to me and said, "Oh yeah, and actually we've got someone at the bar I'd like you to meet." And she was prepping something in the back, and she came out and she said, "Oh yeah, I found out about this bar from the Instagram series, and I went in and applied for a job."
Incredible.
And I was like, "Wow, that's totally awesome." So we can rest happy now after hearing a kind of wholesome experience like that.
Well, I can also point out that you might recall, I hope you recall, you and I were in LA judging LA Spirits competition, and we went out for the evening with our dear friend Eric Castro, and we walked into a bar, and the people behind the bar recognized the three of us. They recognized you as well. They recognized you from the videos. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, hey, Eric Castro, hey, Sother." They were like, "Hey, you're the guy from Vinepair," right? So it's bringing, like, how cool is that like one of the editors of an online magazine is now out front, right? I love that.
Well,
right? And like Adam Teeter does them as well. I'm sure he's getting some recognition. He's because you guys travel, so you go to other cities, right? So Adam's done some
great ones, and his was our first video to hit 1 million views. So I think that was pretty cool.
What?
Very cool. Yeah.
What bartender?
Nectali from Herbs and Rye.
Nectali Mendoza. Oh, yeah. Amazing.
So he reached that milestone.
I went to. He was at Camp Runamuck with me.
Oh yeah.
Nectali.
But to your point, Sother, because when you take that decision to move from being a writer to an editor, you lose your byline, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are anonymous.
Yeah.
So you might work on a story just as much as a writer, sometimes more if it's not going well, right?
Right.
The writer gets the byline, and the copy might not be that great when it comes in. I'm not saying that's the standard, but you do see all kinds of stuff, and the reader doesn't realize that there's this person behind the scenes who might have polished it and made it great. You don't get any of that recognition as an editor, which I'm fine with. Do you know what I mean? But so it is funny that doing that Instagram series has sort of given a face to someone whose work is otherwise behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear to me that editors have a huge impact on the final products as a writer of a couple of books. And I would point out to even the listener, anytime you've seen someone with their the first copy of their book in their hands, they thank their God, they thank their spouse, and then they thank their editor.
Yep.
It's top three. And I was the same, right? Like my book wouldn't have been what my books wouldn't have been what they were without my editor, Jeff Ashworth.
No, I'm working on a larger project right now, and it's gotten to the point where I fear the death of my editor more than I fear my own. Like,
right, more important to the project at this point.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
They could probably finish the rest of it without me, just like that guy that finished Hemingway's last novel, and probably do a better job too. But neither here nor there.
Tying up all the loose ends.
Exactly.
Well, Tim, talk to us a little bit more now about Cocktail College, the long format 3-episode installment, all about Mezcal. Two episodes have already dropped, and I listened to them both. They're incredible. We talked about them off air. I'm really, really intrigued by them.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I would put these episodes right up there with like listening to instead of watching a documentary from Ken Burns, but listening to Ken Burns' documentary. Like this is really in-depth stuff with some sound effects and some scripted and some unscripted. It's great. Just talk about it.
Yeah. So to flip the script ever so slightly from what we've just been saying. So I have to say the hugest thanks to Brian Alberts, who wrote this series alongside me, but Brian primarily wrote it. I've been editing it, and so I just had to give that shout out first because it's funny because it's the editor thanking the writer in this instance.
Listen, first of all, I think a big portion of what the Speakeasy podcast is all about is shining light on people, right? Second of all, just my general nature, I do that as well, and I think you do as well. So, happy to hear you give credit where credit's due.
And on that front as well, Darby Seaside, who is the longtime producer of Cocktail College, he's done all the sound design and he's just done a phenomenal job. So both of I don't know, it's been a very talented team, but basically the genesis for this project started, it was 2 years ago. I got an invitation to go down to Oaxaca with an LA-based restaurateur called Ivan Vasquez. And Ivan is from Oaxaca originally, and he runs a small chain of sort of Oaxacan or mezcalerias in Los Angeles. And so he goes down a couple of times a year, and he wants to buy mezcal responsibly, and he wanted to sort of educate himself about it, educate his staff about it, and educate his guests about it and why it matters. And so the more he's immersed himself in that, the more he goes down a couple of times a year and will meet with very small producers, handpick stuff, and bring it back to his restaurants. And he reached out and asked, do you want to come down? Do you want to see this process happen? And would you like to write about it for Vinepair? And I said, well, I'm not really writing anymore. But how about we capture some of these conversations in audio? And what if we could turn something like this into a documentary? And he said, well, that would actually be great, because a lot of the producers that I meet with are getting older, and they're doing things using techniques and tools that are being lost to time. And he said, there's definitely not been anything written about this stuff in English. There might be stuff about it out there in Spanish, but not that I've come across. And, not to be morbid, but a lot of this knowledge will die with these people. So we should capture it. And
right, it's oral history at this point.
It's an oral history, right? So, so yeah, we went down and we learned about that, and we learned about other challenges that these mezcaleros have faced in their lifetimes. Unofficial prohibitions more recently than you might think.
Yep.
And
I was fascinated to hear about that stuff.
Right?
Yeah. I was also really fascinated to hear about I forget the name, it was in Spanish obviously, but the process of cutting the plant down.
Tumbado.
Tumbado, to leave it to sweeten so that the end product would be better, and how that's dying away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give away any spoilers that you don't want to give away, but that was really impactful to hear about.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of listeners to your podcast, to this podcast, might be familiar with capon as a technique, right, where you're cutting off the quiote. It's kind of like that, but in reverse, right? You're cutting the roots, and it sweetens the agave. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these issues that we see and that we explore within the show are a result of the popularity and global popularity of mezcal. And you start to say, well, has that been a good or a bad thing for the spirit, the people who make it, and the place where it's made? And I think, it's a tough question to answer.
Right. And I love that you're exploring the different ways to answer it without being doom and gloom. I think there's a lot of articles out there that are doom and gloom that say we're loving this product to death.
Mm-hmm.
We're certainly loving it to change. We're even in the 2 episodes that are out so far, we can see that our growing interest and desire to have the product have changed the product. But we're not killing it, hopefully, right? And I think there's a hopeful tone to your episodes.
I think so, and I think, look, as long as there's always money to be made, there'll be someone out there looking to offer the product, right? And it is, to your point, Sother, it's like, what does that product look like, and what is it made from?
Well, but even the way you said that, I think it's no news to anyone out there that, of course I run businesses, but I'm not a capitalist at heart. You said, as long as there's someone out there as long as there's money to be made. But let's go back to even the first episode of your show. You talked about how people did this not for money.
Yes.
They did it because they enjoyed it. They did it because it was celebratory. They did it because they wanted to share it with their communities or their families. And then someone came along with money. And that's how these parts change.
Yeah, and because it's culture, right? And to give a nod to Vinepair as well, like our tagline is drinking is culture.
Yes.
But it is true, right? Drinking and how people drink and what they drink says so much about a community and its history and its traditions, right? And yeah, to your point, like even a lot of the producers we met with, and this was something that I did not know of and that I was ignorant to before I went down. They are not distillers in a sense that is their year-round job.
Right.
They are farmers, and I hate that gets overused in other aspects of alcohol when it really shouldn't be. But like, these people are, and there is an agave season, right? And they have that as a crop, and then they'll move on to the next produce, right? And it'll be a year-round thing,
Potatoes
producing
or corn or
different
what
things,
have you. Yeah.
right?
I think a quick analogy would be, or comparison would be, you on this trip alone met many farmers who make mezcal.
Exactly.
How many times have you been down to bourbon country and met corn farmers who are whiskey makers? It's pretty rare. The whiskey maker's buying the corn from a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It really is. So it was an eye-opening experience for me. And as I said, that was 2 years ago. This was a tough project to work on. I think
Incredible.
that sort of sketching it out, knowing what the story was, knowing where the pieces would go, I had that in mind. But as we mentioned earlier, I wear a few hats over here, and this certainly wasn't the highest priority for, for the company and for my role. And I'll be the first person to admit that, right? Like, this was a labor of love that I was lucky enough that Vinepair were, put the resources behind and allowed that time, right, as well. Did not turn around ever and be like, look, is this going to happen or what? Like, and which was really great. And yeah, and then when I managed to connect with the writer Brian Alberts and sort of spoke with him about it, and I was telling Sother off air too, like, the most amazing part of this, and I think we both agreed it's a good thing, Brian is a beer writer, historian, professor, right? But he didn't really know anything about mezcal beyond its existence before we started working on this together. And I think that was really great to have someone, because when you're in the middle of a story, and I'd like to get your take on this, Greg, but like, when you're in the middle, when you know a story so well, like your beer story that you've been wanting to write for 10 years, it's really hard to have context of, well, where is everyone else at on this topic?
It is. Like, the analogy that I always use is that, like, there are things where I always say, like, I've been staring at this page for so long that I can no longer see the 3D mermaid. Like, I can't relax my eyes and just have like the magic image jump out at me. You get so in the weeds and so focused, and you kind of fall in love with small details that might be charming, but ultimately have no place in the final story. And so that's why you need that outside perspective, like a writer or a good editor, to really have that bird's eye view, that 1,000-foot view, where you're down there, like, in the, like, scrutinizing the little individual blades of grass. You need that other person to kind of tell you what the bigger picture of the thing is.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And I kind of want to ask a little bit about the creative process here, and if there was anything along the lines that you were developing that was surprising to you, because this is not the usual format of Cocktail College. And listener, however much longer you think it takes to do like a scripted narrative podcast with bits of tape cut in there and soundscapes, however much longer you think it takes to make one of those versus an interview show, I guarantee you it's more. These things are massive endeavors. And I guess I want to ask you, because, you started as a writer, what was it like to really immerse yourself in this story and kind of flex some different muscles that you don't normally get to use on the Cocktail College podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it really was a completely eye-opening experience. I came back from Oaxaca thinking we'll have this done in a couple of months, and I think
that also sounds familiar.
24 is a couple.
I came back from Oaxaca in August, and I was getting married in October, and I said, okay, I'd like to have this wrapped and published before the wedding.
While planning a wedding outside the country. Well, outside of the continental United States.
But yeah, I can't remember exactly the date, but I think Brian and I connected about a year ago now. And so I sort of handed over all this source material to him. I said, here are tens of thousands of words of transcripts of interviews, which we had to have translated and transcribed first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's all of that. Here's the story. Here's the 3-part narrative arc that I think it is. Go and immerse yourself with that, and let's have a chat soon, and let's come back. And so Brian spent a little bit of time with that, and then we got into this sort of rhythm of, and the funny thing too, Brian is based on the West Coast and has children and has a job and other things to do as well, right? So we would have a weekly check-in call at Friday 9 a.m. New York time. So he's away there typing away at 6 a.m. We would have this standing call every week, and we would have an updated version of, the script, or, maybe he was still working on a part of it, or he was waiting on me to edit something, or we were just talking about issues that we couldn't figure out, right? Because
Right.
I didn't go down there with the story arc in mind. So there were certain things that's like, damn, well, we didn't really ask anyone this. And it's not like we can just pick up the phone or email any of these people. Like, these are some of the most rural places I sort of visited and definitely ever seen spirits being made. And so we relied on sources like the great David Soro Pinera, and who has a wonderful book on this topic as well. Like, we had to call up David and say, hey, are you able to just sort of answer a few things for us on this? Because there's some gaps here, some things we don't know, right? And there's some things that I don't know to this day, like one that I will share here. A lot of the producers told us that there's a lot of public land in Oaxaca, and there might be wild agave growing on it, or you can grow agave on there. But then who gets to dictate who gets which agave, right? We know in the series we explore who owns each one, how you know who owns it, because they leave little different identifying marks that you need to keep updating every couple of years so it doesn't grow out, right? So we know how you know who owns it, but who gets to choose how you own it, or what is public land and what is owned land? Like, how does some land remain public? Like, these are some questions that we didn't eventually find an answer for, but we might have spent half an hour trying to figure out or talking about, and then we're like, is this actually really relevant to the larger story we're trying to tell? Probably not, but you know
we
what
got
I
our
mean.
own rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to touch on one aspect of the podcast that surprised me, because I did not know this about espadin, which, if anyone knows one particular varietal of quote unquote wild agave that gets used to make mezcal, that varietal is probably espadin. And I don't know if it's over dramatic or fair to say that there's a bit of a conspiracy theory around where espadin comes from and why it's so popular, but this really surprised me listening to the podcast. Would you want to share that with our listeners?
Yeah, of course. And that totally surprised me as well, right? Like, you hear workhorse variety, and I think that's a great disservice to espadin as well, because I've had some phenomenal mezcal made using that type of agave, right? Like, I think it's great. But one thing that we were told time after time by every producer we met down there, that is like, when they started making mezcal, or when their dad or grandfather was making mezcal, there was no espadin. It didn't exist. And people had different theories about when it was introduced, or people remembered things differently, right? But the general consensus was that it was a government program. And I do believe there's documentation on like the fact that it was a government program that sort of started encouraging people to grow it. But again, people don't know why. One of the recurring theories, and we got this from different people, and we weren't leading, and these were in villages or towns that were 50 miles apart, 100 miles apart, right? So like, people had different experiences on different aspects of history. But one thing that was pretty consistent throughout was people believed that the reason that espadin was planted in Oaxaca, or introduced to Oaxaca, was so that when there were blights in the tequila industry for the very genetically similar blue agave, then producers from Jalisco could come down, buy up the espadin that's been growing in Oaxaca, take it back up there, and keep making tequila, because the demand doesn't change, but there are numerous recorded blights, throughout the past decades. That has happened in tequila. And how do you keep up with production? And people said, yeah, there would be large trucks would come down from Jalisco, pay more than the locals would get, if you were growing it and you would sell it to someone to produce mezcal. The tequila producers, they told us, right? I wasn't there, I didn't experience this, but this was something that quite a few of them told us, was that tequila would buy up the espadin and take it up there.
Yeah.
But introduced as recently as the 1970s or 80s, which blows my mind as well, right? Because it's the most wildly cultivated by far maguey in mezcal production. And I was just like, how can that be true?
Right. Well, again, it sounds like money came in to influence the change that the product is going through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again and again, it always comes back to that. Well, listen, we're kind of towards the end of our time here, so maybe we should rapid fire you with some questions like you do on your podcast. And I'm just going to use some of your own questions. What spirit occupies the most space on your back bar at home? Because let the listener know. I would say, don't forget, Tim sits on LA Spirits competition as a judge. Plus, you do multiple rounds of judging throughout the year at Vinepair on categories. I've seen you'll text me and say, "Hey, I can't meet you tonight. I got to taste 300 gins this weekend," or whatever. So you taste a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you get a lot of sample bottles. But what holds the dearest place on your back bar at home?
I would say. I would say that it's a bit of a cliche, but after making this series, it would be mezcal, and that is certainly at the end of the night. If I'm going to pour something neat, because I'm definitely starting with a martini, as you know, Sother, and he knows exactly how I like to make it.
Well, we're gonna get to that too.
Oh yeah, but the thing these days, I won't be reaching for anything aged. I will reach for a little jicara, and I'll have a mezcal.
Nice. You always ask, and I listen intently because I've always had a very fast and firm answer on mine. And I've listened to so many episodes and only heard one other person, and I can't remember who right now, but give the same answer as me. What's the most important bar tool? What's the most important bar tool that you have at your disposal?
I have this peeler that I bought from a terrible, just a standard neighborhood small grocery store. It is garbage at peeling anything apart from it will peel you the perfect twist for a martini. Just a little slither of pith. But if you want to, you can almost pull it like see-through. So I have that is a personal one for me.
That's a great one.
In my because otherwise I wouldn't know behind a professional bar.
I want to touch on that for 1 second. Down at Tales of the Cocktail, a guy approached me because he had heard me talk about this before. I had said I've gone to Greg Boehm at Cocktail Kingdom on numerous occasions and shown him the very tools that I use behind the bar that are mostly his making. Here's my Yarai mixing glass. Here's my 30-centimeter teardrop spoon. Here's my julep strainer. Here's my hawthorn strainer, all from you. And they all look like tools, and they all look like they belong here. And here's my red plastic toy that's a peeler, and I use it on almost every drink at a Mori Margo because we only use twist as a garnish. And why do I have this toy in my toolbox? A guy approached me at Tales of the Cocktail, and he is designing a peeler that has two different widths, and it looks like a tool. And he had a prototype, and I used it, and it was incredible. So, and then my answer to your question was the bar spoon, and you can go back and listen to my episode and hear why I say that. You always ask, what's your martini spec? And I know yours because I've made you several at different bars that I've been behind. I've sat next to you as you've made bartenders make them for you. What's your martini spec that you prefer?
These days, I'm probably drinking 7-1.
7-1
or 5-1. Am I 5? No, I'm 5-1. Sorry,
you're 5-1.
I'm 5-1.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just bad at maths. 5-1. Tanqueray gin, Dolan dry vermouth, and just depending on the mood, I might go twist and olive, but I'm generally a twist and discard. Yep,
I know that about you. And that's a great martini. Do you keep those in your freezer at home? You should. It's summertime.
No, because I like to earn it.
Oh my God. And then the last one I have for you is something we discovered together down at Tail. Well, I'll ask one more. So 2 to go. This is the penultimate question for Tim McKirdy here from Vinepair. He loves saying that shit. what drink did you most enjoy when you were at Tales of the Cocktail this year? And I know you had some drinks at their site of origin while you were there. So is there one of those that you would pick?
Yeah. Do you know the answer to this one?
I don't.
Oh,
I know you had a few. I was with you for a few.
Can I pick two?
Yes.
Sure.
So
no, the podcast police will come right over.
So I want to give a shout out to Conrad over at Manolito, who we had on Cocktail College to record the Swamp Water episode.
Hell yes, I knew where you were going.
And I went down there to film a bartender's guide video with him.
Mm-hmm.
Stupidly at noon with the sun shining on my face, I was dripping. My phone cut out 3 times while recording that because it was so hot.
Yeah.
And we did the video, and I was like,
in Africa, they say it's New Orleans hot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And and in Southeast Asia, they say it's New Orleans humid as well.
Yeah, that's right. We get the combo.
But yeah, it was midday, and he had said as well, he's like, it's been harder and harder for them to get chartreuse. To your point, Sother, said, they're pretty limited with what they can get. So after we filmed the video, I was like, do I ask? I really want to ask, and then he was like, so you're not leaving without having a swamp water, right? And this was midday. The bar wasn't open. His kid was there eating lunch and watching videos on his cell phone. Anyway, I put a video of him making it on Instagram, and then some people reached out and was like, is there a child eating lunch at the bar alone? Anyway,
watch what's in frame, Tim.
So yes, but it was extremely refreshing, and that was so good. And then the second, I would say, the Vieux Carré, and we had the Vieux Carré together, and it was
you and I had one together, and it was a shocking experience.
It was so good, right?
It was really, really good.
So yeah, those were my highlights.
So you had the swamp water, but you had that at Manolito, not the home origin of that particular drink, but a place that really does one well. And then you had the Vieux Carré at the Monteleone at the Carousel Bar, which is the home of that drink. And the reason that I say it was so shockingly good, I don't know, Greg, if you've ever been there to have one, but I have on numerous occasions, and it's usually pretty bad.
No, this is actually like a big bit of tea that I kept hearing over and over again at Tales of the Cocktails, and the Vieux Carrés at the Carousel Bar are actually good now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when people are like, hey, The Simpsons actually doesn't suck anymore. It's kind of this nice return to form of something that had kind of fallen off of its game.
It was sponsored for the Week of Tales, even though Tales is no longer at the Monteleone. The brand was offering, we didn't know this, anyone who came in and ordered one at the Carousel Bar got this wooden coin to take into the gift shop and get a T-shirt from the brand being a friend of our show, Pierre Ferrand.
Oh, yeah.
And my assumption is Pierre Ferrand went in and said, you're the home of the Vieux Carré. Let us show you how to make it correctly. And then we'll give away these T-shirts.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I'll do it myself.
I found that chip the other day in my pocket as I was unpacking.
Oh, you never turned it in? The shirt is great.
No, and I probably had about 5 of those chips.
Oh, man. I don't usually bring home swag. I brought that shirt home. And then the last thing I want to ask you is, and we're running out of time. We've run overtime. It's great. I love running overtime. Let's talk about Bananas Foster. From an editorial standpoint.
Right. Greg, can I get your take on this?
Yeah.
On what? Bananas Foster? In general?
Why plural? It's not apples pie.
It's not crab's cake.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is sort of
It's not peaches cobbler.
Exactly.
Why is it Bananas Foster?
If we're gonna be really pedantic out here, shouldn't it be peaches cobbler? Shouldn't it be apples pie? Unless you're making your pie with only one apple, at which point I salute your efficiency. But
you can make Banana Foster with only one banana. You probably can't make a crab cake with only one crab.
Well, perhaps then those are the ones that should change. And Bananas Foster is maybe out here. Maybe they're the attorneys general. It sounds funny, but they're actually doing it correctly.
That's correct. I am 100% in your camp, Greg. I think from now on, I'm forever going to say crab's cake, apples pie, peaches cobbler.
Yes.
That's how it is now.
But that's actually.
But I'm a wildly pedantic person.
That's a Sotherism, I was going to say.
Well, yeah, referring to the film franchise, I was discussing the latest installment in the Mission Impossible series, and I was saying that it's a shame I didn't enjoy it, but I've enjoyed all the other Missions Impossible, and that prompted a 30-minute discussion wherein I refused to back down and maintain that I was correct.
Yeah, I think you are. This is the same camp for me as iced tea, French fries, iced cream. Yeah.
Yeah. I still refer to it as French toast. And you know what? And I refuse to stop. I will die on this hill. This delightful syrupy hill.
Well, Tim, what a pleasure to have you on our show for once, finally, and to talk to you about all the things you've done over there at Vinepair, which is great. Where can people follow along with you if they don't already know, obviously, Vinepair, but where can they tag into your antics?
Yeah, I'm generally on Instagram at Tim McKirdy, no space, or if there are any budding writers out there or bartenders wanting to attend our monthly after hours events here, they can reach out at tim@vinepair.com. My email address is in there on the Instagram as well too. So yeah, that's where folks can find me. And yeah, Greg Sother, thank you so much for having me on. It's nice to be on an award-winning podcast.
Yeah, well, you were up for the award. You just didn't take it home. Listen, we were up there for 7 years before we got to bring it home. Lovely again having you on. You're a true good friend of mine, and I don't know why we took so long to get this done. Really a good time though.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tim, and thank you to everyone. And we'll put links to all of that stuff in the show notes as well. So if you want to come to the next Vinepair After Hours, which is
I've got a quick pitch, Tim. I wanted to do this at the top of the show too. Quick pitch for you, Tim. Listen, Vinepair is not relegated to New York City, and that's why you've gone on done the Bartender Recommends video series outside the city. I think it's high time we take the After Hours on the road.
Oh yes.
Let's go do some after hours in some smaller markets. Let's go to Cleveland, Ohio. Let's go to Nashville. Let's go.
Well, you know,
our good friends in Des Moines, Iowa.
Iowa. We're on our way.
Well, I'm sure we have some friends at bar, because those are expensive things to when you start taking something on the road. But if there would be a brand out there that would like
brand
to work
money,
with,
let's get that brand money.
Let's get brand money for Vinepair. Reach out to partnerships@vinepair.com. I believe that is the email. It might not be, but you should reach out. And honestly, they have been a lot of fun. And let's take the after hours on the road. Yeah,
let's do it.
Awesome.
All right,
I'm in. I'll just tag along. Apparently, I'm great at that. So I'll just just show up. You won't even know I'm a part of it. Yeah, excellent.
Greg, Father Daddy, the Barnacle Benson. Read us out.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us this week on the Speakeasy. And like I said, the next we're going to put a link for the next Vinepair After Hours in the show notes. It's August 11th here in New York City. If you're in the industry, come by. I'll be there. It'll be a good time. And if you want more Speakeasy, if this still hasn't filled the pit in your soul where Damon Sother and I live, you can find us on YouTube. We are at youtube.com/@speakeasy.podcast. And if you still want more, even after that, you can become a regular on our Patreon. That's going to give you lots of exciting perks like sponsor-free listening, cocktail recipes from all of our guests, bonus content at the top of the show. We've started doing a little bit of bonus content there for all of our loyal followers. And say it with me, free cocktail kit every single month from our friends at Shaker and Spoon. But wait, there is more. Sother and I are doing a monthly after hours hangout. And Damon, where permitting, Damon in certain markets where supplies last, will also be joining us. We'll be hanging out live, chatting, taking questions, and of course, making up some drinks. Now, I know we've been teasing the date for this for a while, but we finally have one for you. It is going to be, drumroll please, August the 6th, Wednesday, August 6th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in, hang out with Sother and me. There's going to be drinks. We encourage you to make drinks of your own, submit questions, contribute to the live chat. It's going to be a good time. So if you want to be a part of that, join our Patreon and become a regular today. And later on this month, we're going to be doing our first annual Ice Week. So much like Shark Week, we're going to be dropping a week of bonus episodes featuring super deep dives into all things ice, while our regular show goes on summer break in August. So that is soon. We're going to be talking about cubed ice, clear ice, crushed ice, ice spears, a bar that uses no ice. And for every new regular that joins between now and August 5th, when our regular season ends, we will be donating all of that money to No Us Without You in support of our favorite type of ice, abolished.
That's right.
And finally, we have a listener survey out right now because we want to learn more about you. Who are you? Where are you? What do you like? What do you want to hear us do more of? And every single week that we are running the survey, which is only until the end of our summer season, by the way, which is coming up soon, every single week that the survey is out, we are going to pick the name of a respondent at random to win a free bottle of Quixote Imports agave nectar. Except this week, since we were doing dispatches from Tales the week before, I think it's only fair that we picked 2. So Robert R., Ken B., congratulations. You have won a free bottle of 100% pure agave nectar from Hidalgo, Mexico. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts and your insights and a little bit about who you are. And stay tuned, because a package of tasty, tasty agave is going to be winging its way to your doorstep very, very soon. And if you want to be cool, like Robert and Ken, you can respond to our survey. That is going to be open from now until August 8th. So be sure to chime in and make your voice heard. And be sure to tune in next week when our guest is going to be John Campbell of Sespe Creek and Warbringer Aguardiente. It's been a while since we've had Aguardiente on here, so I'm excited to talk about that. That will be the last show of our regular summer season, so be sure to tune in. But for now, until next time, cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll, Lord knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The rebel runs